What's going on, everybody? My name is DJ AppleJac, aka Uncle Shecky, aka Sheck Nicholas, aka Sheck Boogie, aka Shanghai Sheck, half of Crockett and Tubbs, DJ, producer. In terms of like what was happening locally, I'm from Decatur. So, Edward J and Demo Nation was some of the first kind of crews that I remember right off the rip. It was a little bit different being in the South because, this wasn't the times when, how it is now and the records come out in the same place everywhere. It was, hip hop was still fairly regional. So if you didn't live in the tri-state area, you know what I mean? Or if, somehow your label didn't have, fairly wide distribution, like you was out of luck trying to find a lot of those early records. Luckily for me, I had a neighbor named Dwayne from New York. So he would, his brother would send him records or he would go to New York and get them. So that was how I would hear him. Or he would have tapes. So like whenever he would get a new tape, he'd give me the old tape. Usually it was Mr. Magic. Every so often it'd be a Red Alert tape. And even like going to the record stores was a pain in the butt because, I would have to take the tape to the store because they wouldn't know what I was talking about. I'm like, do you have this record? Just listen to this tape. And I, try to have it set to the song I wanted. And, it still didn't make a difference because most of the record store people that were there were older people. So they was like, we'll carry it because some of these young guys like this rap stuff. But it wasn't to the point where people knew enough about it to sell it. I remember distinctly it was the DJ, I think it was DJ Man. He mixed the acapella to Sucker DJs by Dimple D with the instrumental of Sucker MC. That was crazy. I remember hearing One for the Trouble by Davey DMX for the first time on that tape. A lot of sacrifice with my allowance to get some raggedy, beat up turntable with a second hand. I think I had a realistic mixer or something. Didn't even have a crossfader. But I had it and it was working, The first party I ever sort of spun at was my friend's 7th grade graduation party. He had a DJ, but I begged the DJ to let me just get up there and do something. I wanted to impress the girl. And I got up there and froze completely up. And I ended up not doing anything and looking silly. But that was like the first time I ever at least attempted to DJ in public. 92, I was DJing with Zulu Nation. Shout out Zulu Nation. The chapter had just formed and we were doing a party with Nation Time Syndicate, which was another big crew that was on the radio at the time. And I think that was the night, I played I had like a milk crate of a few records. And there's a bunch of old records that nobody really was playing at the time, like a lot of old soul, R&B records. A few things that people knew, but a lot of stuff that people had, they liked a lot, but they had never heard it within the framework of like a party or a club. So that was like probably the first thing that I think people started really checking for me for. And then after that, of course, doing the clubs. Strange things. Like my father was a minister, so it was. But he liked this. He liked music in general. So part of it, he didn't mind, but he didn't understand why I would want to scratch up a perfectly good record. And so it took a bit of him kind of seeing what it was about to kind of. I was in my 20s before he really was like, oh, okay, this really actually takes some sort of talent. But so that was really it, man. My mother, she just felt like, between that and basketball, as long as it kept me out of trouble, it was cool. I don't always like playing the same songs everybody else likes to play. I like to play stuff that I like, which a lot of DJs don't do anymore, or very little. They don't really play a lot of songs they like because they feel like, it's about making sure that the masses are pleased, and that's cool that you're supposed to do that too, but I think it's gotten to the point where the audience is spoiled. So now if you don't play their song when they want to hear it, now you're a fucking whack DJ. Probably making the Playing Favorites album I made in 2011. It was me, you know, being a musician. You know what I mean? It wasn't no sampling, wasn't no nothing like what people would have expected from me. You know, being a DJ that, you know, made hip hop beats. So to really knuckle down and learn chords and, you know, do what I had to do to make the record come out good and have it received the way that it was, man, that was probably a really proud moment for me. As a DJ, I think I would love for people to say that he always, you know, played from his heart and not from some predetermined or pre-designed playlist that was always gonna appease everybody. I think that, you know, maybe if they don't see it now, they're like, yo, he used to play them records, all the blah, 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 like when they become like the shit to play. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, you know, I want people to feel like he played good music. Whatever the genre was, whether it was hip hop, whether it was house music, whether it was funk, whether it was Afrobeat, whether it was salsa, whatever it was, like, I would want them to, you know, kind of equate the name AppleJac with quality, a quality performance whenever they would see it. Beyond that, or deeper than that, as a person, I want them to feel like, you know, he really walked in the gift that he was given, and he tried to express it, you know, and, you know, not just with the music he played, but the way that he treated people.